Levarme la moustache en la camucha. Siento patanilo, mira tacatiki puletica. Siento patanilo, mira tacatiki puletica. Siento patanilo, mira tacatiki puletica. Siento patanilo, mira tacatiki tacatiki. Siento patanilo, mira tacatiki puletica. Siento patanilo, mira tacatiki puletica. Siento patanilo, mira tacatiki puletica. Sani levarme la moustache en la camucha.
What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show. And today I'm going to talk about two topics. One of the topics being the players that are being mocked to us. I'm going to give you my opinion of the players being mocked to us. There is one player that's mocked to us that if my thinking is correct, I understand why Ron Rivera would be thinking this. Then there's a guy that I like that I think they should pick at 19. But then there's a wild card guy that I would not be upset if they took him at 19. Then the other topic that I'm going to talk about is Ron Rivera waiting for the June 1st cuts to start signing more free agents? I say that because we do still have a lot of money on the books. And he's kind of like nitpicking here and there, but maybe he's waiting. Maybe he knows something where he might be waiting for a bigger guy to actually be released around June 1st. Then at that point, he'll go after him. Not really certain if that's the case, but I kind of feel that could be the case. But we'll just go on. But topic number one, let's start there. We're going to talk about some of the guys that are being mocked at Washington's 19th overall pick. And what do I think of these guys? Now, we'll start off with the guy that seems to, since some of the teams have been moving around and everything, and there's this big idea that we're talking about the possibility of seeing 5 quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, with 1, 2, 3, 4. But we'll definitely have to see what happens. But we are talking about that, which is now making some people possibly fall or drafts being readjusted. But I don't think that it's going to be readjusted as much as people think, because beyond the Philadelphia Eagles, they're the only team who really fell down in the draft that, aren't picking exactly where they were at first. But they're still picking pretty high. So with that, like I said, let's start off with the guy at the top, which is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Joker for short. This guy, Joker, I really like Joker. I think he's a very good player. I think that he would fit a lot of people's schemes. My concern with us is that we're looking for a linebacker and not a guy that is basically a safety, to be quite honest with y'all. I mean, there's a lot of things that is to like about this guy, but there are also things that nobody's talking about. Like, nobody's talking about the fact that he came in and they said that at some point he was weighing in at 205. So if he's weighing in that small, and then I think at his pro day he had to bulk up to 221, but he didn't run the 40. So I have a little bit of concern there, because to me that tells me that his playing weight isn't 220 something. That tells me his playing weight is probably around 210, maybe a little bit smaller than that. But like I said again, that is my big concern with Joker, is that one, he's not a linebacker. He's not a linebacker for us. He's more fit. He's like a Derwin James type of guy, a big guy who can play linebacker, but his size kind of indicates that he shouldn't be playing linebacker. So for me, Joker, as good as he is, I just don't feel he's the fit for our scheme. So with that, that's a guy that, I don't really see us really having a big impact with picking him. The other guy, Zaven Collins. I like Zaven Collins. He's an excellent linebacker. He does play very well. He's a speed guy. He can play speedy. He can play very quickly. But his issue is that he's an outside backer who, to me, doesn't always give maximum effort when it comes to playing. There are some games, if you really look at the film, there are some games where he just doesn't go after the ball like he probably should. You see some games where he does that, but then you see some games where he just takes that time off. And I'm wondering if it's him just being lazy, or if he just feels, well, the player's over there, I'm not going to do nothing about it. If the guy comes near me, then I'll attack it. But if he's over there, that's somebody else's job. That's my concern about a guy like Zaven Collins, is that he might not be all in with actually making plays, especially if he goes to a team that runs like a 3-4, where he would have to be forced to push into the middle. I don't think he's really that good in the middle. So I personally, as great of a player that he is, he doesn't fit us. Last but not least, and the guys that are mocked to us that I really don't feel is a fit for us, is Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney, to me, is basically what Steven Sims is. You're basically, if you draft Kadarius Toney, you're basically drafting a better route running Steven Sims. You're not drafting a guy that's any different than Steven Sims. They both have basically the same thing. Don't get me wrong, Kadarius Toney does run better routes, but he drops the ball just as much. Like, there are times where he makes an amazing play and gets in a route really, really quickly, but as soon as he gets in that route, he drops the ball. And it's not like it's times where because of his height he's overthrown or nothing like that. No, it's times where he's just hit directly in his hands and he just drops the ball. A lot of that could be because he's trying to hurry up and turn up the field before he's caught the ball, but he has a lot of drops. The same thing applies to like Steven Sims Jr. You get that same thing from this guy. So in actuality, if you drafted Kadarius Toney, you're basically just redrafting a Steven Sims who runs better routes. That's all you're doing. So for me, again, he's not a guy that I necessarily feel would fit. Now, here's one guy that's mocked at us that I don't have an issue with him coming to us, but it's only on the basis of if Ron Rivera is thinking this. Now, this guy, Christian Darrisaw, I like him. He's a very solid offensive tackle. I honestly don't think he's going to fall to us. I think he's going to go a little bit earlier than we think, because the Philadelphia Eagles, even though they're having issues at wide receiver and things like that, a lot of their offensive line is older. And they're going to have to look to see if they can start replacing guys. I think Jason Kelce is already 33. So they're going to be looking to replace guys. But Christian Darrisaw, if my thinking is correct in regards to Ron Rivera might be thinking, if I draft, and a lot of this stems from his press conference that he had as well, where somebody asked him the question about Saahdiq Charles, and he made it a point of saying, well, Saahdiq can actually play not only both tackle spots, but he can also play guard as well. Which lends me to think that if he is thinking about selecting Christian Darrisaw at number 19, that there might be a situation where he's thinking, I will have both my young bookends in this offense as years to come. Because when you really think about it, if everybody feels that we don't really have much of anything on the left side, because both guys are up next year. Well, at the end of the season, both guys are up for free agency. But the following year, you also got Morgan Moses, who will be about 32 once his contract is up. You're going to need to find a way to replace him. And if based on Ron Rivera's press conference, that is his thinking, my mind is that he's more than likely thinking that he's going to draft Darrisaw, put Saahdiq Charles on the right side, or put either one of them on the right side, whoever works out first. Then he'll have his young bookends for the foreseeable future. The next guy, the guy that I like at 19, is Nick Bolton. I just think that this guy fits perfectly in our offense. He's not only the best middle linebacker available, but he'll also be the best fit for our defense. I love Nick Bolton. I love everything about this guy. I mean, I've been looking at a bunch of Missouri stuff. I looked at a bunch of Missouri stuff the year Drew Lock was in, and I just gotta say, I like Nick Bolton. I mean, a lot of people have an issue with his speed or some of his coverage when it comes to passing. But you got to understand, the Missouri defense didn't really ask him to do all that, because they had their safeties do a lot of the coverage stuff that was going on. So for him, he was focused on crashing the line, making plays behind the line and things like that. If guys came across his field of vision, he was blasting them. So for me, that is the type of guy we need in our defense, because with our front down lineman, he'll be able to roam sideline to sideline and actually sit up there and make a bunch of plays. So for me, Nick Bolton is the guy that I want. My wild card guy, and nobody's talking about the possibility of us taking him, and I think that he's going to have the same issue that Terry McLaurin had, and that guy is Terrace Marshall Jr. Now, Terrace Marshall Jr. played at LSU when Justin Jefferson was there, Jamar Chase, who, by the way, opted out last year, and he played with them and still somehow, some way recorded like 700 and something yards receiving. Last year, he recorded 700 and something yards receiving, and he only played in 7 games. They mocked him at the 40 at 4.38. So you're talking about a guy who's actually not being looked at that much in this draft, in this upcoming draft, and he could be the next Terry McLaurin in regards to being a wide receiver that everybody for some reason is completely overlooking. I would not be mad if Washington selected Terrace Marshall Jr. at number 19, because again, you would now give Terry McLaurin the best option opposite to him. And I know people are talking about Kelvin Harmon, because they're talking about now Kelvin Harmon possibly moving to tight end. I don't know why, but okay. But I just think Terrace Marshall Jr. is completely being left out of this conversation of guys that could possibly be at the pick for Washington. So for me, I like Terrace Marshall Jr. I would not be mad if they took him at 19, because I think that he would be the best complement to Terry McLaurin in regards to guys that in regards to playing opposite Terry McLaurin, and I think he's vastly being overlooked, just like Terry McLaurin, and I think that he will put up big numbers. And what better way what better way to sit up there and have a situation better than you're able to sign Terry McLaurin to your long-term deal, and then by the time Terrace Marshall comes up, the cap and everything would have gone up, and you'll get the 5th-year option on him. So that are my guys. Like I said, 3 guys I really didn't, that they're mocking to the to the Washington franchise. I really don't like those guys in regards to the fit of our team. And then the other 3 guys, I agree with it. You know, I really do. Like I said, the guy that I want at 19 and my wild card guy, I wouldn't be mad, even with Christian Darrisaw, I wouldn't be mad if they took him at 19 as well. If the thinking is having your young bookends for the foreseeable future. So I would agree with that. My next topic is Ron Rivera waiting for the June 1st cuts to sign more players? Now, we haven't really talked a lot about the June 1st cuts because it hasn't played that much of a role in recent years, because now they're able to just they're able to release guys in March and just designate them as June 1st cuts. So we haven't really seen a lot of actual June 1st cuts happen. Now, somebody asked me this question, and I was like, I really don't see Ron Rivera trying to find someone after the June 1st because I don't think that there's going to be a lot of guys out there. There are names that have been thrown out there like Anthony Barr, Jalen Smith, Tyron Smith, Nate Solder, Kevin Zeiker, guys like that. And I think Zeiker might have signed somewhere. But either way, it's just that thing where it's like they're sitting there and they're talking about guys. And to be quite honest, the June 1st cuts haven't been that big of a deal recently because players now are doing their agents are doing an amazing job with putting these massive escalators in their contracts that if they are released, that they count an extensive amount of money, dead cap space against the team's cap. So, I mean, a lot of these guys, I don't see them even being cut. But then there are guys that their production is just too much to cut them. So, a prime example, you think about a guy like Deion Jones down in Atlanta. Yeah, you might save some money if you cut him, but you're talking about you now have to replace his production. The same thing applies to Eric Kendricks in Minnesota. You have to replace his production. I mean, Eric Kendricks is like 100 tackle a season guy. Anthony Barr, you know, he's another one. I mean, his production hasn't been the greatest it's been, but I mean, because of Danielle Hunter. But even with that, Danielle Hunter, who has a high significant number, and if they release him, you know, they have a whole bunch of cap savings. But again, Danielle Hunter is like almost 15 and a half a year sack guy. So I like I said, you know, I just don't see Ron Rivera waiting around for June 1st cuts to really happen. Again, like I said, most guys, and even when the guys that are released around the June 1st, they're normally guys that are older. They don't have much time left in the league. You rarely find top level talent around the June 1st cuts now compared to in the past years where you would find that. So I don't feel that Ron Rivera is waiting around for June 1st cuts, but if he is, he must know some stuff that we really don't know because he's not spending any money at all. DeAndre Carter, I understand the pickup. My concern about the DeAndre Carter pickup along with the Adam Humphries pickup has a lot to do with what do they really view Antonio Gibson as. Did they think he was actually going to be kind of like the J.D. McKissic, Marshall Faulk type of running back? Or did they now understand that Curtis Samuel fits that mold a little bit better and we're bringing in Adam Humphries because we're going to need Curtis Samuel to do more running back stuff than what we initially anticipated him doing, along with bringing in a guy like DeAndre Carter, who now is, you know, he's a kick returner. You might want to see how much he can do in the backfield. Can he take some snaps from J.D. McKissic, and can he be that scat back guy? So, man, it's something, but I honestly, truly don't feel that Ron Rivera is focusing on June the 1st. There aren't a lot of guys out there in free agency at this point, unless they just gonna kind of squeeze people and things like that. But I don't see a lot of guys out there. There are guys that could be coming up at June 1st, but I highly doubt it. I don't think the teams want to let these guys go. Some of the guys are just too young to let go. So with that being said, you know, I just don't see it happening. I just don't see it happening. I am going to sit up here and say this. If Ron Rivera does sign, we need other guys. I'll say that. We do need other guys because we cannot rely on the guys that we currently have, especially at middle linebacker. Middle linebacker has been a disaster for us these past couple seasons. So we definitely have to upgrade at middle linebacker. We definitely need a free safety that can actually do something. And we need another playmaker when it comes to wide receiving. So with that, these types of moves are the only things that I can think of. I don't think Ron Rivera is waiting for June 1st cuts. And I don't think that he's going to be waiting for June 1st cuts. Other than that, this is your man John Fortune. And this is the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.